Okay, well, do you prefer Professor Damm or Mr. Damm?
Terry.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet you, Terry.
Yeah,
Thank
nice
you
to
so
meet
much
you.
for being here. Do you read comic books a lot, or
No, not so much.
no?
But
Just do you comic book movies, or
yeah, I don't mind those. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of more on the nerdy side, so
yeah, fair
I
enough.
do like that stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Is that what got you into pharmacology?
Oh, not so much. That was more like just happenstance, I guess.
Okay.
That got me into pharmacy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I guess let's just start from the beginning then, where
Yeah.
you can introduce yourself, where you're from, and
Sure. Yeah. My name's Terry Damm. I'm from Regina, but I've mostly lived in Saskatoon my whole life, and I work at the University of Saskatchewan with the College of Pharmacy and Nutrition right now, and I also I'm a community pharmacist as well. I still maintain practice there.
okay, wow,
Yeah.
cool, awesome. Sorry, I forgot to mention this before, but if you want to just bring the microphone a little bit closer to you, that should be
That's
good there. Perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're in pharmacy and nutrition, and you've got your own practice that you're doing right now as
Yeah,
well.
that's right. Yeah.
I guess how long have you been doing both of those?
Well, pretty much since I graduated, actually. So I graduated in 2010, and then I worked a year as just a full-time community pharmacist around Saskatchewan. And then after that, I started working at the college and still in a pharmacy too.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty much my whole career has been both those jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Aiden Corbet took one of your classes. He didn't tell me which. I don't know if you teach multiple classes.
I do, yeah.
But I can't remember which one he said he took. But
Yeah, he would have been in my lab course
Okay.
at the time. He's just finished second year now,
yeah, I think so.
if I'm right there. Yeah, so I would have also taught him in second year some therapeutics I teach as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so sorry, I want to go on a tangent now. What is the therapeutics? I've never heard of that related.
Oh, so in pharmacy, therapeutics would just be kind of the meat of what we teach students, like what the drugs do in a clinical sense, and how to treat various conditions with medications, and
okay.
how to manage disease states with medications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, my original point was just that Aiden said that you were a phenomenal teacher. He had lots of good things to say. So
Yeah.
that's he suggested that I reach out to you. So
Okay. Yeah.
when you were getting back into the university side of things, did you go right into teaching, or was it research, or?
No, it was right into teaching, which was a little strange because I got the teaching job like a year after graduating. So a lot of the students were actually older than me.
Okay, yeah.
When I started teaching. A lot of it was luck. Like it was a maternity leave position that opened up, and I just thought, oh, like why not? Let's just apply to that
Yeah.
and see what happens. And I don't know if anyone else applied for the job because they gave it to me, but yeah, that's how I got started in the teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the lucky roll of the dice then.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Right time, right place.
And when a professor goes on, or whoever's position you're taking goes on maternity leave, when they come back, do you move to a different position, or did that person come back?
Yeah, so they did come back, and luckily there was enough other stuff that needed to be done, so there was a position for me, and they kept me on since then.
Okay.
And it's evolved, of course, over the 10 plus years, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this might be an obvious question, I guess, but do you find that teaching at the university and your practice are really compatible, or do you find it's actually less compatible than you would think, or?
compatible, like in what way? Like managing the two, or?
Managing the two, and is teaching helping you stay on top of being a good pharmacist, I guess, or is
Yeah.
it actually taken away from?
I see what you're, yeah. It's probably actually the other way around. I find that working as a pharmacist helps me be a better teacher, especially since I teach the first year students, so it's a lot of the foundational material on how to be a pharmacist. And the profession's going through a lot of change right now. I don't know if we need to get into that, but staying active in practice helps me make sure I'm being as up to date as possible with those first year students when I'm teaching them the basics.
Yeah.
It is difficult to manage both, though, because the teaching's a full-time job, and then I have to do the pharmacy work on the side. So a lot of evenings and weekends are spent on that. So, but yeah, it's manageable, and I think it's valuable that I keep my feet in the door there.
Yeah, of course. How is it changing then? You mentioned that.
The profession.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of what we would call expanded scope of practice. So I think most people have the perception pharmacists are merely behind the counter just dispensing medications, which of course is still an important role, and we still are doing that a lot. But now pharmacists are taking a more central role in like prescribing medications for certain conditions. We're overseeing like vaccinations and injections on a lot of things. And we're just taking a more holistic approach to managing patients. So although we still are medication focused, we are a lot more active in individual people's healthcare and how they progress through the system now.
I see.
And yeah, it's just been changing a lot in that way in the last 5-10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are those changes specifically more of just a leaning towards doing those things, or were pharmacists actually prohibited from prescribing, for example, in the past?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't use the word prohibited, but it just wasn't like enabled, or it wasn't seen as a function of pharmacists. So I don't know, maybe I think now it's probably like 12, 13 years ago, they started off allowing us to prescribe for what's called minor ailments. So if you have like a cold sore or like acne, those are considered minor ailments, and you can now see your pharmacist, and we can do an assessment and prescribe a prescription for those types of conditions. And there's a list of like I don't know, there's 20 plus different conditions we can prescribe for now, and that just keeps getting expanded year over year.
Okay, well,
yeah.
And so each time more conditions, I guess, or ailments come out, do you have to get retrained on diagnosing new things, or?
Yeah, it depends what it is. Certain conditions, it's just accepted that any practicing pharmacist should be able to have the knowledge to assess and treat that condition. But there are some new conditions that have come out that do require extra training. One example there that's being piloted right now is otitis media, ear infections. So in order to start prescribing for that, you need to take extra training on how to use an otoscope to look in the ear and properly diagnose it before you can prescribe. So sometimes conditions come out that do require extra training.
Okay,
yeah.
I see. And to loop all the way back, I guess, before you were going into school,
yeah.
What was kind of the reason that got you into pharmacy? Why that route?
Yeah, I've been asked that a lot. I wish I had some grand answer or inspiration for that, but really, when I was thinking about applying to professional programs, I had a friend who thought that pharmacy would be a good fit, and I didn't have any better idea, so I just applied with my friend, and I got into pharmacy, and that's how it started. But at the time, I didn't have any like grand aspirations or ambitions to be in pharmacy, or even a healthcare professional, to be honest. So it was just almost a random choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it was worked out well for you.
It has. It for sure has.
Yeah. So after that point, now you've applied, not really too concerned about it. You've gotten in. Now you're in class. Did you find that you were kind of fighting your way through it before you liked it, or did it just click?
No, you're right. It did not click right away. Probably took until my fourth year of pharmacy, which is when at the time, that was the old version of the program. It's different now, but at the time it took until your fourth year of pharmacy, where you actually got to like learn a lot of the more in-depth clinical material and how to apply it to actual patients. And also, that's in fourth year is when you'd actually step into more advanced roles during your internships, like during internships at a community pharmacy or in a hospital site. So it's the first time really seeing what pharmacy could be for me. And that's when it started to click and all my knowledge started to connect and make sense.
Yeah.
But until then, I was having a lot of doubts about it.
Yeah, fair enough. It kind of sounds like maybe you had going into the fourth year, you had all of these keys and no doors to open, kind of, and then going into the fourth year,
that's a great way to put it. So that was the old program though. It was called it was a BSP program, Bachelor of Science of Pharmacy. Since I believe 2018, I think that's when we started. We switched the program over to the PharmD program. So it's a higher credential now. So our new PharmD program, like right as soon as they start in first year, they start getting some of those really in-depth clinical pieces in their lectures, and they also get to practice it much sooner in their internships. So hopefully all of our current students make those connections a lot sooner than I did back in the old program.
Interesting. So before it was the PharmD, did graduates of the program, the way you went through it, still get a doctorate or?
Yeah, so the old program, you just got a bachelor's of science in pharmacy. And yeah, it's just remains that way. Anyone who graduated under that still has that credential. There are programs in Canada where you can upgrade your BSP into a PharmD, but not many people have gone down that road.
Yeah. And I guess, and so, but yeah, so now with the PharmD, the graduates would be doctors of pharmacy.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Um, Interesting. I didn't know that either. Is is that the way Canada's going, I guess, in terms of like requirements for pharmacists, or?
Yeah, basically, that was one of the main reasons our program made the switch. Is it was happening elsewhere in Canada and internationally too, so it was necessary to keep up with how the training for pharmacists are going worldwide. So
Yeah. It sounds like the program might function a little bit better. You said that the students get a little bit more clinical work earlier on.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, the old program, like the first several years, were just heavily science based and not really application to what the average pharmacist does. But now it's much more clinical, and you get all the good stuff early. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess back to your experience, you said that in your fourth year you'd gone through all of this schooling. You said it was more the scientific, and then you get all this practical stuff right at the end.
Yeah.
Was there anything specific about getting into that practical environment that really excited you, or made you like it a bit more?
Yeah, well, I think it was just once I was doing my fourth year practicums that I finally had the knowledge to be able to like take a patient from start to finish with whatever problem they were having, and do it mostly independently, rather than relying on the preceptor or someone else to finish the job.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot more satisfaction being able to do that, and that's when it was a bit of inspiration, I guess, that okay, I think I like this. I'm gonna finish it, and yes, I can see myself having a good career here in pharmacy. Yeah.
And how long is that process? Like, or when you did it, I guess, how long was?
How long was the program?
Just the end of it. So moving into the more like clinical and practical side.
Oh, like in fourth year?
Yeah.
You mean? Oh, yeah. So the fourth year was one term of classes, and then the second term was all practical. So it was like 3 5-week rotations, I believe, at different sites. So 15 weeks of practical. And it's not like that was the first time we were put in a practicum. During first, second, and third year during the summer, you would also do a practicum at different sites. But again, at the time, your knowledge wasn't really there, so it was just difficult to actually do anything useful. Yeah.
That makes sense. And when you're rotating, is it mostly hospitals, or is it pharmacies, or both?
It's a mix. So one of them would be community, one would be in a hospital, and then the third 5-week rotation was called a specialty rotation, which we still do in the PharmD program. So that's where you can select a specialty practice site that does something unique in pharmacy to practice there. So my specialty was actually with a group called MedSask. They had a different name at the time, but it's like a helpline that people can call if they have a question about medications. Other healthcare professionals also call it if they need help with something, sort of like a consulting service.
Yeah.
So I did my specialty rotation there at MedSask, and that actually led to part-time work afterwards too. Yeah.
Is that where you ended up staying then?
Yeah, after graduation, I did work full-time as a community pharmacist, but I also picked up some part-time work at MedSask for a while, which also helped bridge me to working for the college. MedSask is involved with the College of Pharmacy quite heavily, so that's how I made a lot of connections there. Yeah.
And outside of, I guess, specializations like that helpline, is there, I guess, on the community pharmacy side, does it get pretty niche, or are all of the pharmacies pretty broad, or?
Yeah, there are some niche practices, especially now. Some community pharmacies are picking up their own specialty. So for one example that's gotten more popular there's compounding pharmacies. So these are pharmacies who make customized medications for patients. Now every pharmacy can do some level of compounding, but it can get quite complex and specialized. So that's why we have certain pharmacies now that focus on compounding. Travel health has also become another specialty. So again, every pharmacist has some level of training where they can provide advice about vaccinations for travel, but some cases get much more complex and specialized. So some pharmacies focus on travel health and can just go much more in depth with that service.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So at a compounding pharmacy, are they just combining drugs so that patients don't have to take like multiple pills for a day or each day, for example, or are they actually like synthesizing the drugs at those?
Could be both. So sometimes it's like if a patient had a hard time taking multiple drugs, perhaps we can combine them into a customized like capsule version of several drugs combined to make it more convenient for them. Sometimes a patient needs a product that's no longer commercially available, but compounders can still get like the raw material and then compound it into something suitable for a patient to take. Or sometimes a patient might need a liquid medication that doesn't commercially exist, so a compounding pharmacy would figure out how to do that. All sorts of examples of what compounding pharmacies are providing now.
Wow.
It's just a niche that sometimes needs to be filled for certain patients.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So would those pharmacies then also have the opportunity to make those drugs on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies, or if they're buying a name brand, does it have to come from the...
Right. Well, usually how it works is like if you have a drug you need to change somehow or formulate in a different way, you often can order like the bulk powder, like raw ingredient of that drug. So you're not synthesizing the raw ingredient that's ordered from whatever manufacturer. And then, you just compound it into whatever form is best for the situation.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. And so the pharmacy that you're at, is it does it operate on a broader level, or is it niched, or?
Yeah, so I just work at a smaller independently owned pharmacy, so we don't have any sort of like specialties or niches or anything like that. We're just a very general community pharmacy. Still focused on dispensing. We still do a lot of like vaccinations and all the other typical roles like prescribing for minor ailments, for example. We still do all that, but no, we don't specialize in anything.
Okay. Yeah. And so all of this had you connected to the school pretty early on, going back, and what was, I guess, the catalyst for finally deciding that I'm going to teach? You said that there was a position that was open.
That's right. Well, at the time when the position opened, I was working as a relief pharmacist full-time for a drug chain. And relief meaning that every week I would go to a different community in Saskatchewan to fill whatever vacancy they had for their pharmacy, which is fine. That was actually a great job. It exposed me to a lot of different communities that I would otherwise never really seen around Saskatchewan. And it really helped build my confidence too, just jumping into different workplaces on a week-to-week basis and trying to integrate myself. So it was a good job, but I did want to start staying home in Saskatoon. So I was kind of keeping my eyes open for any position. I had no idea that I would want to apply for a teaching position. I remember when I applied, I thought it was a terrible idea to get into teaching. Just being in front of an audience all the time, just at the time seemed like a nightmare to consider getting into. But I thought, well, you'll never know if you don't apply. So I just applied to see what would happen, and it ended up working out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like you've taken that mentality a couple times in your life. It's worked out.
Yeah. So, lots of luck and random chance involved for sure.
Yeah. Wow. And so with wanting to come back to Saskatoon or to be at home more often, was it just getting tired from the traveling, or because you said it sounded like you said you were enjoying it too? I was enjoying the work, but I don't know, I am a homebody. I might prefer to stay at home and whenever possible. So after a year of doing it, I was getting tired of just being on the road all the time. Yeah. Well, Saskatchewan's a big province too. So.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, so you're now you've got this job at the school. What's it like getting prepared for that first class, and then that first time you step into the classroom and you're teaching? Yeah. What are you going through?
Yeah, well, so the first teaching role I had was actually doing the skills lab. So it wasn't like a standard lecture format. It was organizing a pharmacy skills lab and instructing the students, observing them, providing them feedback, all that stuff. And I believe it was for the third year pharmacy class. It was the lab I was responsible for. I was extremely nervous, mostly because, I was doing this pretty much right after I graduated, so I was quite young, and a lot of the students were older than me. And I've never really seen myself as any sort of authority figure, so I had no idea. I still don't. So I had no idea how I was going to keep control and lead this classroom. But I don't know. Luckily, I think a lot of the students saw that I was a fresh grad and I've still worked in community pharmacy, so I had a very realistic perspective on what I was able to provide when I was observing them and providing feedback and organizing the different activities. So it went really well, and that group of students ended up giving me excellent course reviews, which I think helped lead to me keeping my position when the mat leave was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, I prepped before these podcasts, and I couldn't find anything about you online except for a rate my professor, and
I have seen that page.
yeah, that's what everybody said. Everybody that I talked to has different opinions, because most of my guests have said that they try not to rely on it to judge themselves.
Yeah.
But your score was, I think, perfect. So it was just like all fives or something. People had really good things to say.
Yeah, there's only like 6 ratings though, so don't get too excited.
I didn't scroll all the way through, but well, and like I said, it's the same sentiment that Aiden had when he recommended that I invite you on.
Yeah. And so I've tried to keep that that practical, realistic perspective whenever I'm teaching students in the lab or in a lecture. Just to try to be as relatable as possible, and so that they can see that, I practice what I'm teaching, and I think that adds some authenticity to it.
Yeah, of course. Do you think that there could be something about the fact also that, like you said, you don't see yourself as an authority figure, and I don't know, like we've only spoken for so long, but you strike me as the type of person that keeps the same personality about you all the time, that you're just being yourself.
Yeah,
right? So.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, I don't put on any sort of facade. I just am being myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that first class you said, it was a lab, and it was teaching pharmacy skills.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. What was you said you are teaching more than one course now?
Yeah, I am now. Yeah.
Okay. What was the next one after that first one that you'd taken on?
Well, I did the lab for a while, and then the mat leave position came back. So then I was out of the lab for a while. I believe the next classes I taught was called drug informatics. So that's teaching students how to look at the literature about medical studies that come out, and how to appraise it and apply it to your specific patients, to see if it's relevant to that specific patient you're working with. It's probably the most dry and boring material in pharmacy. It's a lot of statistics and learning how to read all the terminology related to that. But that was the next set of classes I ended up teaching for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe dry, but I imagine that's probably one of the more important ones.
Yeah, you do need to know how to navigate the literature out there, because you're constantly inundated with all these headlines about medications, and you have to be able to go to the source and find out, like, is this actually relevant, and does it apply to this specific situation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How difficult is that in your experience practically now, like just staying on top of things? And because I'm sure there's drugs coming out constantly. Right?
Yeah, it's very difficult to stay on top of everything. In fact, I think it's impossible for any pharmacist to be fully up to date on every topic and every medication. So I can say with confidence that I do not keep up with everything. I do have a few topics that I try to focus on and keep up with. These are the topics that I lecture on, so of course I'm going to stay up to date on those. But I think it's not possible to stay up to date on everything. It would be foolish to try. I think you'd spread yourself too thin.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
This seems to be the way everything in life is going, just because of just technology in general, right?
Yeah,
There's just,
for sure.
The volume of everything that gets produced now is you can't keep up with anything.
Yeah,
basically.
it's an insane amount. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I guess do you hold professional licenses, I guess, as a pharmacist outside of the actual degree from the school?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Every practicing pharmacist has to maintain their license every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that done through a continuing education system, or?
Yeah, that's part of it. So our regulatory body is called the Saskatchewan College of Pharmacy Professionals. So every year you have to pay a licensing fee and fill out some forms to say you've done certain things. And then, yes, you have to declare that you've maintained, I believe it's 15 hours of continuing education for the year, or it might be going up to 20 hours this year. I have to check. But yes, you have to maintain some amount of continuing education.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is that? I guess first question is, for you, does teaching count as the continuing education?
Yeah, I am able to claim some. They're called self-study hours. So of course, when I'm reading the new literature on whatever topic I teach, that's self-study. So that would count towards my continuing education.
Right.
Otherwise, you need to go to conferences and watch different presentations, or there's some like online modules you can do about certain things to earn continuing education credits. Yeah.
Okay. And so I guess then, when just in any given year, in this year, for example, if there's 100 drugs that come out, and then how do you go about just trying to, one, not only at least hear about the different drugs that are coming out, but then deciding which ones are valuable to to look into?
Yeah, it's a tough question, because it's not just like finding out which drugs came out this year. You also have to ask, like, is it available in Canada yet?
Right.
These new drugs often also cost an insane amount of money. So it's like, will I even see this drug anytime soon? It's probably not going to get used in my practice anytime soon. So I try to find the ones that I'm most likely to start seeing soon in practice. So there's this one reference I use all the time, one resource called RX Files. It's a Saskatchewan developed resource. Wow. They're just a group at the university who stays on top of all the literature, and they try to distill it down into what's the most important for us to know. And they summarize what changes are and what's new for certain disease states. And I often use that as a starting point to see like what's new and what I need to perhaps focus on or include in a lecture or something like that.
Yeah, that seems extremely helpful.
Yeah, they're internationally recognized, RX Files. They're an excellent group, and the resources they put out are world class.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess as you were speaking about it, it made me think about the fact too that, like, just on, obviously I'm not in the pharmacy industry at all.
Yeah.
But just on social media, you hear all of these different things about different drugs coming out, or what you should ask your doctor about, of course, and all these things. And,
yeah.
Do you see trends that come through where patients are being prescribed more things for periods of time, or things come and go? Or
yeah, you definitely see trends. I think in Canada we're a little bit more insulated from that, because the influence of drug reps is much less than you would see like in the States, and our drug advertising rules are also quite a bit different. But you still do see some influence there, and drug reps still go around, and you can usually tell when a drug rep visited a doctor's office, because all of a sudden they're prescribing like a certain brand name now, even though they never did before.
Yeah.
So you certainly see trends. I'm sure you've probably heard of the Ozempic trend. Trend might be the wrong word to use for that. It is an extremely valuable drug and helps a lot of people. But yeah, we saw that's probably the biggest change we've seen in the last couple of years, is just the sheer amount of Ozempic and similar drugs being prescribed. Yeah.
Interesting. And so, yeah, you said in similar drugs, I guess, is it typical that, like with Ozempic now, that drug's been out for quite a long time, I think, right?
Yeah.
But it's become famously popular in the last few years, I guess.
Yeah, it was available for diabetes for a while, and then it was only more recently it got the official indication for weight loss, which really has driven its popularity.
Okay, I see. And so when a drug is getting popular like Ozempic is it typically one that kind of formulates a winner-take-all situation, or do all of the periphery drugs get increased as well?
Kind of a winner-takes-all. Usually the first to market for a certain indication or drug class tends to end up being the one that sticks around the longest and is the more popular, at least until a compelling alternative comes along. Like for example, for Ozempic, it was the first really popular drug in that class for weight loss. There's other options now that are probably even the same or even more effective and more convenient to take, but we don't see them as often just because they weren't first to market. Yeah.
And I had a follow-up for that, but I lost it on Ozempic. No, if it comes back, I'll
It'll
bring
come
it up.
back.
But I guess what was popping in my head though is I guess just what about being a pharmacist and teaching in general is like the most exciting to you.
Yeah. Well, for the teaching part, just being able to see how students progress from being that very green and novice, like first year student, and I get to see them throughout the whole program in different ways. But seeing them progress from that very nervous student who has no like professional identity, they don't know how to do anything in healthcare yet. Like they're just so novice. But seeing them progress from that state up to when they're doing their fourth year rotations, and you can see like this is a polished healthcare professional who knows what they're talking about. It's just immensely satisfying to be able to say that I've played some sort of role in their development. So to me, that's the most rewarding part of teaching. Working in a pharmacy, just getting now that I've been at the same pharmacy for a while, just getting to know the individual people week to week, month to month, and seeing how they progress, and helping them face their challenges and sharing their success stories. That's also very satisfying to get to see.
Yeah. Did you expect that when? Well, I guess you didn't originally expect to be a pharmacist if you go
Right.
back far enough. But
Right.
as you were getting into it, did you expect to get those benefits out of it?
Yeah, no, that wasn't something I thought, that I would get to see or experience. But yeah, glad to be wrong on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there, outside of pharmacy, I guess, is there anything that being a pharmacist and a teacher has allowed you to do in other areas of your life that you didn't expect as well?
Not so much. I do find like because of the teaching, I've never been a good public, or I wasn't a good public speaker, and I was always quite nervous to speak in front of a crowd. But since getting into teaching, like I've no problem speaking in front of an audience, or giving a speech or a lecture on whatever topic. So it's really helped my confidence in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's definitely an important skill, especially in that position.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And do you plan to continue to teach? And
Yeah, I don't see any reason to change. I still enjoy it a lot, and still get a lot of satisfaction from it. So, and students still seem to like me, so that helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a little bit away from pharmacy, we were talking about comic book movies earlier, and you called yourself a nerd.
Yeah, that's right.
What hobbies outside of pharmacy are you into that?
Yeah, gaming's a big one, like video games. I play a lot of video games, which sometimes helps me relate to students in the classroom a little bit. But yeah, it's probably the main hobby. During the summer, I like to get out lots to do some camping, canoeing, and fishing. So I know I might not look like it, but I'm an outdoors kind of guy.
Wow, cool. So what video games?
Well, these days I mostly just play like single player games. I'm not too much into like the online competitive games anymore. So single player games, things like Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, Cyberpunk 2077. I really like those games to focus on.
Awesome. Yeah. Baldur's Gate is amazing.
Oh, of course.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and all the students played that game too, so we had lots to talk about.
Yeah. Well, it became so popular.
Yeah.
I'd never been into any games, kind of that style before that one, and a buddy that he just said you should try it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what magic sauce they had, but it really broke down barriers and got a lot of non-gamers playing a game like that. It was amazing to see.
Well, the funniest experience for me with that game was my fiance actually, and because I'd show her a game every now and then, and she doesn't play too many, but she'll play couch co-op games with me.
Oh sure, yeah.
But she saw me playing that one, and I was showing it to her, and she was like not really interested.
Yeah.
And then one of her coworkers at work had mentioned it. And so she said, well, maybe I'll go and try it because Nathan has it. And now she sucks. She plays way more than I do,
Nice.
which is the funniest thing to see. Because I would have thought if she would have played a game, it would have been like Overcooked or a Lego Star Wars, or like just something, along those couch co-op lines.
Yeah.
No, she's fully invested in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, that happened to my wife too. Like she's always played games on and off quite a bit, but never quite a full heavy in-depth game like Baldur's Gate. And then she played that and loved it, and now she's playing all sorts of similar games.
Yeah. Well, I guess speaking of similar ones, if you were recommending somebody games along those lines, what would you You tell them to check
Yeah.
out.
Well, yeah. So that genre I would classify it as just like story-based RPGs. That's kind of my favorite genre. Yeah, I mentioned Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2. Number 2 just came out, the sequel. Those are kind of niche games, but if you can get into them, they're like world class. Like you've never played anything like those games before.
Wow. They're called Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's it might not sound that exciting, but it's a historical medieval simulator RPG basically.
Okay.
It takes place in central Bohemia in the year 1400, and it's very grounded in reality, and it follows real events that occurred during that time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, excellent games.
Yeah. Anytime something's following history, and I guess it's historical fiction, it's so fascinating to have that narrative and then also know that some of this stuff was going on. Like it's not completely made up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get to follow real events and real characters or real people that existed in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you said you were playing Cyberpunk as well.
Course. Yeah.
That was a controversial one when it came out.
Yeah, I play on PC, so the PC release when it came out was fine. I think it was the other releases that had problems, but I played it when it originally came out and loved it, and then I played it again recently when the expansion came out, and it is much improved. But
Okay.
I've always thought it was a top-notch game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't checked that one out either, but I might. Yeah, that's so cool. And then, so you said you spent a lot of time outdoors as well.
Yeah.
And so was that growing up? Did you do that or just?
Yeah, quite a bit. My dad instilled a love of all things outdoors, so that's just kind of carried on. So, yeah.
When you're going out, is it like camping or to the cabin or?
Camping, sometimes to a cabin. I prefer just basic primitive camping in a tent at a very non-electrified basic camping site.
Okay, cool.
I love to do that as much as I can during the summer. And then I always bring the canoe too and try to get out on the water.
Yeah. And then just enjoying it and just staying on the river or whatever lake, or are you doing
whatever
fishing
lake.
as well?
Do a little bit of fishing on the canoe too.
Yeah.
Not very good at that part, but we try.
That's an interesting one because some people claim to be really good or really bad. I'm really bad, as it turns out as well. But some people just seem to catch all day.
Yeah, and I copy what they do and nothing happens. So I don't know. I don't know. But when I'm fishing, catching fish isn't the point. It's just to be out there and relaxing and doing something. So I don't mind being bad at it.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect, I guess, sport for that.
Yeah.
Is 'cause you can just kill so much time hanging out. Like you said, if you don't catch anything, as long as you've got a good attitude about being out there, it's totally fine.
Yeah, we'll spend 6-8 hours per canoe session on the lake.
Yeah.
Maybe have one bite, but we still have a great time.
Yeah, wow. So do you do canoe trips too then? Or?
I've wanted to do that. I did a couple when I was younger. In high school, I was in the Voyageurs program, which went on an annual canoe trip, which I love doing those. But I haven't got a chance to do a canoe trip since. Something I do want to change though. There's so many great options around Saskatchewan here for that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, they're super popular. Like I haven't done one since I was in elementary school, but we just did Outlook back to Saskatoon.
Oh yeah, that's one of the ones we did in high school.
Yeah, that was a fun trip, and you learn so much too about yourself and about kind of what you can put up with, and I'm sure you know these things already, being versed in the outdoors. But yeah, lots of people. I think everybody should try out, not necessarily a canoe trip, but something like that.
Yeah, it can really test your resolve, especially if the water gets rough or the weather turns poor. How far you're able to go. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and your ability to tolerate other people is a big one too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
because you never know. Like you can spend, even married couples, you spend all your whole lives together, and you put yourself in one situation, you find out like that person just drives you nuts and is doing specifically this one thing. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any spots that you like to camp regularly, or?
Yeah, we've recently discovered Emerald Lake. Just it's about 2 hours out of town. It's kind of by a big Shell Lake area.
Okay.
If you happen to know that area.
Yep.
It's a nice small lake. Beautiful. It's named Emerald Lake because on the right day the water looks like very clear and it's emeraldish. It's a developed campground, provincial park, but yeah, it's a nice place to camp, and it's
Mm-hmm.
never too busy. That's the main thing I watch for, is how busy it is. I
Yeah.
don't like to go to the busy places.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's tough because it's like if you're enjoying something, you want other people to enjoy it too, but you also don't want to be, you don't want to feel like you're at a theme park when you go camping. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So other places I like, I haven't been there in a while, but I really like the Narrow Hills Provincial Park. Do you know where that
No,
is?
narrow
It's
hills.
Narrow Hills, yeah. It's pretty far. You have to go northeast of Prince Albert, so it's about I think it's like a 5 or 6 hour drive from Saskatoon before you get there.
Okay.
But it's a pretty large provincial park, and there's a cluster of like 10 different excellent lakes and campgrounds. Very rustic though, so you have to be prepared for a more adventurous camping experience.
Yeah, that's good. I like those two.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been there in a while though, because it's quite a trek to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do anything out of province or mostly just here?
Mostly just here. Yeah, I haven't really ventured out of province much for that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then hiking as well when you're camping, or just hanging out at the site and mostly getting on the canoe, like you said.
Yeah, mostly that. Not against hiking, of course. If they have a trail, I'll for sure go on that too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Haven't really done any really intense like backwoods hiking or anything like that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And neither have I, but that's another thing I'd like to try at some point in my life.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like here in Saskatchewan, we got some world class areas and hiking trails to experience. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Is there anything at the university that you're involved in that way too? Like, do they have any programs that?
That's a good question. They probably do have some programs, but no, I have not looked into it or like joined anything.
Yeah, no, not involved.
And like I know in Saskatoon we have the Saskatoon Canoe Club, but yeah, I've never joined that either. Just kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And on video games, I guess to kind of jump back around, I guess.
Yeah.
Was that something you started doing in adulthood, playing video games more, or was that your whole life
Oh
as
no,
well?
yeah, whole life growing up with them. Yeah, like some of the earliest memories were me watching my older brother play some games and then me trying to mimic what he's doing. So I've been gaming my whole life, starting with the NES.
Okay, yeah. What were your favorite Nintendo games?
Well, we only owned a few, but of course Super Mario Bros. On the NES. There's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game on the NES that was brutally difficult, but never got past the first level maybe, but still played that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about those older games too where like I don't know what it is, but I'm bad at all of them, even the easy ones.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the like no difficulty setting, and you get the game as is, and you gotta
can't
figure
save.
it out.
You just gotta go through the whole thing in one sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I still get nostalgic and I'll go on a binge of playing all those retro games from my childhood. And some of them don't hold up, and it's nostalgia that helps them be fun to play.
Yeah.
Some of them are still actually quite good. It's impressive.
Yeah, it is really impressive, especially with what they were able to do with so little.
Exactly, yeah. So little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a video on the making of the Game Boy. I think it was just the Game Boy generally. I can't remember if this video was on one of the specific iterations of it. But just what fascinated me the most was all of the little things that Nintendo did to save space and memory usage and battery life. And it's just stuff that, like, I guess for me, sometimes I forget that the people making this stuff are engineers.
Right.
It's not only creatives doing it. There's people that have like legitimate math problems and technical problems that they have to solve in order to provide a product.
And I think when they were making games in that era and they had all those constraints, I think that actually helped them make better games to figure out how to work within those constraints. Because now a lot of modern games, they have unlimited resources. Like they don't care about how large the game is or really how it runs, and you end up getting these, games that just they don't feel right. Like there's something missing from them because they've lost a lot of that creativity that's required to work around the constraints in the older era.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's been several video games that my buddies have told me to buy so that we can play together, and I won't buy them because they're like 150 gigabytes.
Yeah, like what's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just have to convince myself every time that I'm sure there's a reason that it's this big, but it's whatever reason it is not good enough for me to download it because I don't want to take up all that space on my computer.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's still lots of good modern games, of course, but yeah, something's definitely been lost there.
Yeah. One of the really cool things from the video I was watching on the Game Boy was that they said that, I don't remember if this was to save space or an engineering problem, or if it was just something clever that Nintendo wanted to do just cause.
Yeah.
But they put on, and you might know this already, but they, on the game cartridges, they would all have to load up with the Nintendo logo. So the Nintendo logo gets showed,
Yeah.
but it was also the verification process for making sure that the game cartridges were authentic.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they did that because it made it easier. Instead of having to put all sorts of encryption on it, they can just put the Nintendo logo with the trademark on it, and then that way, that being the authentication feature, if anybody else wants to make a game cartridge that plays in the Game Boy, they have to use the Nintendo logo, which would be a copyright infringement.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, it's just those small little things that I don't know, I get really excited about because it's just so clever.
Yeah. They had to do so many clever things for that era, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of a lost art in itself as well, is just handheld gaming. But there's the Switch, of course, still.
There's the Switch.
Yeah.
If you like PC games, there's the Steam Deck.
Right. Yeah.
Which it's not for everybody, but I have one. It's kind of brought back that feeling of on-the-go gaming and just some of that more casual gaming. It's great for.
Yeah. Is the experience pretty good with it, or is it clunky, or?
It can be clunky, but 90% of the time it's not. But sometimes you'll try to load up a game and it just doesn't function quite right on it. But
yeah.
So there is some clunk. Definitely not as refined as like a Switch experience. But if you have a large library of like PC games already, it's a no-brainer for handheld PC gaming on the go.
Well, yeah, and especially if you travel frequently.
For travel, it's one of my essentials to bring along.
Yeah. And is that one a standalone console, or does it stream from your computer?
It can do both, yeah. I mostly use it standalone, but yeah, if you have a good gaming computer already, you can stream from your gaming computer to the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think too, like I don't get most of the new games coming. I don't get quite few actually, but I think a lot of them are providing more and more controller support as things goes on.
Yeah, that's been I would say a solved issue for quite some time now. Most games, they'll just be compatible with whatever controller you've hooked up and detects it right away and configures it, and away you go.
Yeah. Otherwise, those consoles, I guess, would not really work that well at all.
But that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a rumor that Sony was coming out with a standalone one because they've got that. I can't remember what it's called, but they've got one for the PlayStation 5. I think
the Portal. I think.
Yeah, that streams.
Yeah, that one just streams though.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that. And it's just a rumor, but that they're making a standalone one. And
it'll probably happen. I think a lot of the manufacturers saw how successful like the Switch and the Steam Deck have been, and now they want to get in on that and have their own device.
Yeah. Well, like growing up, everybody had a PSP.
That's right. PSP was insanely popular.
Yeah. That was a really cool console too, because it felt like it was your PlayStation 3 basically.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool to see what's happening nowadays with all of the technological advances.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a little bit bummed out about it because it feels like the pace is so fast that it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, fear of missing out.
Yeah. Fear of missing out, and a little bit more just the sense that like everything is so cool that nothing seems like the leap can be big enough that I'm just like it's mind-blowing anymore.
That's true. Yeah. You're right. It's been a long time since I've played a game that made me, feel that way again. That Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I pointed out, gave me that feeling. It was actually in my mind, a big leap in like storytelling and how games can be.
Yeah. When I remember like growing up, it felt like it was every year or two when a new console or a new system came out. That was
just a big, huge leap.
Yeah, and they were always needed because the improvements were so much better.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's like every few months it feels like something is coming out that is supposed to be way bigger and better, but
it's not really.
Yeah.
It's very incremental now.
Yeah,
you're right. Like going from say like Super Nintendo to the N64 or like PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2. Yeah, massive change, and just totally changed the landscape each time. Yeah, we won't be seeing that kind of progress anymore, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
That said, I do play like virtual reality games quite a bit. That's kind of stagnated now, but that kind of was a big leap forward.
Yeah.
When it's come out, it's just a totally different way to engage with games. But it has kind of stagnated now, and not sure where it's going to go. But
that is true. Yeah. Yeah, those were a huge deal. Well, especially because maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, but it seemed like they went from needing to be connected to a computer to being standalone very quickly.
The Quest headsets are the popular one. Yeah. So I still prefer the ones you connect to your computer because you get much more detailed games because it's being powered by your entire computer.
Yeah.
Versus the standalone headsets. But it's actually really impressive what those standalone headsets are able to pull off.
Yeah. I wonder why do you think that it's not so popular? Because the VR is stuff that so many of the games are family friendly and everybody can do, but when you look at the Wii is obviously not VR, but when the Wii came out, it immediately was a household name. Everybody had one.
Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Everybody had it. Yeah.
And you can do the same thing with VR headsets and obviously way more.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't seem to have been adopted as ubiquitously.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's just the VR industry is having a hard time finding its footing and how it can best exploit that technology, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the Quest headsets, it is incredibly accessible. They're very easy to set up and start playing. I think the limiting factor is a couple things. A lot of people get motion sick from VR and don't put in the time to build up tolerance to it. It's more active, of course. So a lot of people at the end of the day if they want to play a game, they want to sit on their couch and game. They don't want to be standing up and moving around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Takes more space, of course, if you want to have a good VR experience.
Yeah.
You don't want to damage anything. So I don't know. I don't think those hurdles will ever be overcome. So I think VR kind of will remain as a niche.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if have you seen or watched Black Mirror at all?
I've seen a few episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Striking Vipers episode?
I don't think so. No. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of weird. But part of the episode it's about a game that people download into, and so they just sit on their couch and I think they put a chip on their head or something like that. Right. But then they look unconscious and they're in the game. And I've always been curious about whether it'll ever come around and if people will not be too scared enough to give it a try. Yeah,
I wonder too if that'll happen. We've seen Ready Player One.
Yeah.
That version of VR, full dive VR, I guess you'd call it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the chip where you're just unconscious but doing something in another world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get there or if it ever becomes possible. Yeah, will people accept it? I'd be hesitant to, knowing who would be in control of the brain computing interface necessary to do it. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and even if you could hypothetically trust the company to be completely ethical, they might make a mistake, right? If there's what are the glitches going to do to your experience?
Exactly. Right? Yeah. With those Quest headsets, the ones that actually exist right now, the standalone headsets, it's owned by Facebook, Meta, of course. And, I don't really trust Meta, so I'm never going to buy a Quest headset. And that's just we're not worried about brain computing interface issues with there, but I just don't think they're an ethical company and I wouldn't trust them with whatever data they're able to gather through the use of their headsets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably why I couldn't find any information about you online.
Yeah. Also, yes, I don't like social media, so I'm not on any social media.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. But yeah, it's interesting. I think that stuff is, I don't know, I'm optimistic. I hope it's changing because I think that people are actually starting to push back a little bit more on companies and saying no, I don't want you to just completely invade my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I saw a quote just yesterday or the other day. It was Edward Snowden, and I hope it was real. It fits Snowden, but it said that saying that you don't care about privacy because you don't have anything to hide is the same as saying that you don't care about free speech because you don't have anything to say.
Yeah. I think I've heard that from him too. I think it's real. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was perfect because I haven't thought that way in a long time, but I have been guilty of saying that in the past.
Oh, of course, yeah. I've seen a lot of people say that too.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm optimistic. I hope that things get better and that we can continue to play video games and not have our private lives invaded.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, we're getting real close to 11 here, but okay. I've asked you about everything I wanted to ask you about. Is there any topics that you expected us to cover today that we didn't, or?
No, I did. For some reason, I did anticipate video games was going to come up. So glad we got to chat about that.
Yeah.
And talked about pharmacy. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I expected.
Okay, great. Well, you're not on social media, so I know you don't have anywhere to direct people to that way. But I guess if people want to get involved in the school, they can just apply for this College of Pharmacy at the University of Saskatchewan.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of good resources on the college's website. We also have a presence on, and I don't know the details because I'm not on social media, but we do have a presence on like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, I believe. That will share some like application tips on how that process works and all that.
Okay.
If any current students are interested in pharmacy, there's also the pre-pharmacy club that you can sign up for, and they'll kind of help guide you through the application process and share tips on how to succeed on the different entrance exams and interviews that you need to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll try I will include some of that information in the description for this video. So
for sure. Yeah.
For this podcast. But thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks.
Of course.